afternoon, my lovelies. Here we are. So we're gonna start fermenting some food today. But before we get into it, I wanted to share a bit of history. So why fermentation is so good? Apart from preserving food, and that's what we used to do before fridges and modern society, it is also incredibly healthy as it contains a lot of probiotic and as well lots of vitamin C. Especially today we will be doing cabbage, okay? So once upon a time, where people were sailing all over the world, a lot of sailors were dying of scurvy, which is the lack of vitamin C. Now, in 1753, Dr. James Lind did discover and publish a paper as well all around the subject, which was completely ignored. But then what happened is our own Captain James Cook, for 3 years he was on the boat and none of his sailors died of scurvy. Why? Because he had sauerkraut or preserved cabbage, in fermented preserved cabbage, which I think is absolutely great. So also I wanted to give you some tips on what not to do before we actually start. So thing number one is you do need to be aware of what water you're using. If you're in town or in a city, do not use tap water because it's full of chlorine, and chlorine will actually prevent the fermentation and mess up your vegetables, okay? So you could get filtered water. Oh, by the way, reverse osmosis as well, it's not good, or distilled water, because the water doesn't have the minerals that it requires for the fermentation. So we are lucky, we are on spring water here where we live, so it's nice and clean and comes straight from the ground, so we don't have an issue. Otherwise you can get filtered water, or find a good source of water. If you can't find a good source of water, you can boil your tap water as well, okay? And very important, do not use iodized salt, because again, it's not good for us and it prevents the fermentation process. All right, very important first step is you need to sterilize your jar. And if you look at different people that do fermentation, they get all fancy with fancy jars and lids. I am very simple and I like simplicity, so I just have any jars from pickles or other things, salsa, whatever else you got in the home. Make sure you have hot boiling water before you put the jars in and the lids, and that's it for the sterilization process. All right, so we got our cabbage. It is very important for many people to know the measurements. So you need a scale, and we're gonna measure how heavy our cabbage is. And this cabbage is 1.5 kilos, okay? So by knowing that, we're gonna find out how much salt we need. So the salt quantity depends on the vegetable really, and how long you're gonna preserve it for. So for this, we do around 2 to 5% on the weight, okay? So in this case, I'm gonna actually do 30 grams of salt per the 1.5 kilo of cabbage, okay? So the first step is we need to take off the first few leaves, and you can see some of the leaves, maybe they've got a bit of black or whatever that is, and we just take those leaves off. I also recommend keeping a few extra leaves to then press down in the jar, and I'll show you that. So I'll keep a few extra leaves, and there is no need of actually washing. This is an organic cabbage, and if you grow your own food, obviously you don't need any of that. You just, if there is any soil, take it off, but otherwise it's all good. Okay, so we've chopped all the cabbage, and you don't have to be perfect, but just in smaller pieces. And I've measured already 30 grams of salt for our 1.5 kilo cabbage, okay? Now please remember, do not use iodized salt, because that is not good. It's gonna mess up the whole process. All right, so cabbage is a bit different from other vegetables, which later I'm gonna do another video on how to pickle zucchini, okay? The cabbage needs to actually sit with the salt, and you need to work a little bit this. So you need to massage very kindly and strongly. I saw another guy that did a video on this, and he say, oh, if you're angry at someone, just think at them and get all your anger out on the cabbage. I do not agree with that statement, because whatever you're putting in, you're gonna get out. So when I prepare my food in general, I like thinking positive things and humming and singing to it. Even if you do like I don't know, if you're religious, you can do a prayer, you can sing some beautiful hymn, or you could do a simple and just be happy. It's always important to cook and prepare food with joy and happiness, because that's gonna go in your body. All right, and we'll see you in the next step. But what I was gonna say last bit is, once you've massaged the cabbage, you need to let it sit for about an hour at least and come back to it. We'll see you in about an hour. All right, so if you come and have a look here now, the cabbage has reduced a lot from up here that it was, and there is a lot of lovely juicy water that has come out of it.
Juiciness.
So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna squeeze all of that and put it into the jar. If you can get jars that have a bigger opening, it is obviously easier to do, but we work with whatever we got. So we're just gonna fill the jar. Now we're not to fill the jar fully, although we're gonna pack it as much as we can, and I'm gonna get probably a spoon or something else to help me with.
You want me to grab that for you?
That would be great, thank you, cameraman.
Okay, you're welcome. Big or little?
Big one, thanks.
Okay.
And as well, we need to leave some space on top, because this will ferment. I'm not sure if that's gonna fit. Yeah, it will.
Okay.
This will ferment, and how it ferments, this is gonna bubble up. So we do need to leave some space in the jar. And it's gonna take, look, you can eat it already after a week, but I prefer actually letting it sit for at least a month and a half would be better. What we're gonna do as well, I've just collected, if you can put the camera in here,
okay,
some borage, flowers, leaves, and some stinging nettle.
Why are you touching it if it's stinging nettle? Shouldn't that sting you?
Well, that's the thing with stinging nettle. If you touch it like this, just with your fingertip, it doesn't sting.
Oh, really?
But if you touch it anywhere else on your skin, it
Do
will
it.
sting. It will sting. And also on the top of it, it doesn't sting at all. Even if I do like this, no, it's just the bottom of it that has the little stingers.
Oh,
okay?
Cool. That's a fun fact.
Very good. And nettle is very good for iron, and so is borage. They've got so many benefits. But
can you make teas with this?
You can also make teas with that.
Okay.
Thank you, Adrian, for pointing that out.
You're welcome.
So I'm gonna chop them up and put them in the jar. Now you can leave this as it is. It's gonna taste amazing, or you can add whatever spices you like. Like I'm gonna add a bit of fennel seeds and cumin and a bit of garlic, and actually.
Wait, which one is it? Fennel seeds again? I didn't say. Sorry. That one.
And some cumin and some garlic, and also we can put some bay leaves that we're just gonna go and collect in the garden. And then what we're gonna do will be very simple. This one I'm gonna do normal. Yeah, we're gonna
just
squish
like
it
compact
down.
it.
Yeah, we're gonna compact it as much as we can, and then I'm gonna take a bit of the leaf that we kept from before.
Wait, question.
Yeah.
Are we gonna like do different versions of that? So that's just gonna be like the normal one,
That
and then
is
we're
correct.
gonna do like different spices and
Yes. So now see the water? I'm gonna pour the water.
juices, delicious
the juices.
juices.
And it needs to be fully covered in water. Okay? It needs to be very, very covered. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna push the leaf inside. Alright.
I've never seen anyone do this. This is new to me.
It needs to be pushed down very strongly. Now if you come here, I've actually cooked some rocks from the garden.
Wait, what?
Yeah, because
why do you cook rocks?
to sterilize them.
Oh, that's hot.
To sterilize them.
That's a very hot rock.
So, and we're gonna use this as weight to keep all of that goodness down.
So you just boiled a rock which sterilizes it, and now you're putting it in there.
Yeah, because when it ferments, this is gonna bubble up. So if it does have a rock or two,
how many rocks do we need in this?
we're gonna put a couple of rocks.
Okay,
and
delicious.
That is gonna stay like that. Now we're gonna put the lid on,
extra
And
nutrients.
it is very important that you actually let this breathe every few days. Otherwise, you risk that this goodness is gonna explode while it
what?
ferments. It's gonna explode while it ferments. So remember every few days to open the lid and let the carbon dioxide out. Okay? So we're done with this one, and we'll see you in the next.